Loud. Step away from the car. Hands where I can see them. Whose SUV is this?
It's mine, officer.
Yeah? You lifted off somebody in town? Plates don't look like they belong to you.
You're making a mistake. My name is Special Agent Jordan Cole, FBI.
Here, look, anybody can buy a fake badge online. What are you really doing driving this
I'm
thing?
on duty, sir.
And you're detaining
A body cam recorded the exact moment the situation began to go wrong. An officer's suspicion, a luxury black SUV, and a black man the officer didn't realize was an FBI agent. What should have been a simple pass-by turned into a stop based on bias, an unlawful search captured clearly on video, and a series of decisions that would launch an internal investigation, reveal a pattern of misconduct, and eventually cost the officer his badge, reputation, and career. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The footage starts outside the FBI Charlotte field office. Employees were leaving for the day, heading to their cars and talking in small groups. Among them was Jordan Cole, 35, calm, professional, and 8 years into his work in federal financial crimes. He wasn't the type to draw attention, but today he was driving something that did, a newly purchased black luxury SUV. Jordan got into the driver's seat and let out a small breath as he loosened his tie. It had been a long day, and he was ready to head home to the Dilworth district. He started the engine and prepared to leave. Nothing unusual, nothing unsafe, nothing that should have caught anyone's attention. But someone was watching. Parked just outside the federal garage sat a white patrol cruiser. Corporal Mason Trent was inside, positioned at an angle as if he'd been waiting for someone specific. Trent had 10 years on the force and was known for relying on his gut more than actual procedure. His colleagues used that word politely. It often meant he judged people based on appearance. The second Jordan's SUV rolled out, Trent's eyes locked on him. He didn't know Jordan was federal. He didn't know his background. He didn't know anything. All he saw was a black man driving an expensive vehicle, and he decided that didn't fit. Jordan noticed the cruiser right away. Years of experience made him alert to small details, and the way the patrol car sat still, angled toward the exit, told him the officer wasn't just passing by. But he tried to let it go. Maybe the officer was doing paperwork. Maybe he was finishing a call. That hope disappeared quickly. The cruiser pulled out the moment Jordan reached the street. Jordan sighed quietly. He already knew where this was headed. He kept his hands steady on the wheel and checked his mirrors. The cruiser didn't speed up, didn't pull alongside him. It simply followed, staying close enough to send a message. Then the lights came on. Jordan pulled over on South Tryon Boulevard. He rolled the window halfway down and placed both hands on the steering wheel, following the same protocol he taught younger agents. Corporal Trent approached the SUV. His posture said everything. Chin lifted, shoulders wide, hand resting near his holster. He didn't greet Jordan, didn't explain the stop, didn't ask for anything first. He just leaned slightly toward the window and scanned the interior like he was already looking for a problem. "Nice car," Trent said. "Yours?" Jordan kept his voice even. "Yes, officer. Is there a problem?" Trent didn't answer. His eyes moved from Jordan's suit jacket to his watch to the stitching inside the SUV. His expression made it clear he had already decided Jordan didn't fit the vehicle he was driving. "License and registration," Trent said. Jordan handed them over. Trent looked at the documents, then at Jordan, almost irritated that everything matched. He walked around the SUV slowly, taking in every detail, not to ensure safety, but out of disbelief. Jordan watched him through the mirror. He knew exactly what this was. Trent wasn't checking for a violation. He was trying to create one. A second patrol car slowed as it passed. Officer Riley Adams glanced over. Trent motioned for him to stop. Adams stepped out, younger and more controlled, but clearly following Trent's lead. "He giving you trouble?" Adams asked quietly. "No trouble," Trent said, "but something doesn't add up." Jordan recognized those words. They were often used when there was no evidence, only assumptions. Trent returned to the window. "Step out of the vehicle." Jordan felt the tension rise in his chest. "Officer, may I ask why?" "You're acting nervous," Trent said, despite Jordan not moving at all. There was no point arguing. Jordan stepped out, hands clearly visible. Cars drove by, some slowing down to look, but no one stopped. Trent immediately started a pat-down. There was no reason for it. No probable cause. It was only meant to assert control. Adams shifted uncomfortably, but stayed silent. The imbalance was obvious to everyone standing there. Jordan knew it. Adams knew it. Trent didn't care. And this moment, this attitude, was only the start of what he intended to do next. Jordan Cole stood beside his SUV on South Tryon Boulevard with his hands clearly visible. His breathing was steady, his posture controlled. He had trained many agents on how to handle tense situations like this, but standing in it himself, knowing he had done nothing wrong, was different. He kept his focus on the moment, because one wrong assumption from an officer could escalate everything fast. Corporal Mason Trent moved behind him in slow circles, watching him like he expected something to happen. The sound of Trent's boots against the pavement was sharp and deliberate. A few feet away, Officer Riley Adams stood quietly, observing the situation without intervening. His expression showed discomfort, but he didn't step in to stop Trent. "Turn around for me," Trent ordered. Jordan did exactly that. He faced the open road while cars passed by, some slowing down just long enough for drivers to look at the scene. A well-dressed black man outside a clean, expensive SUV with two officers around him. It probably raised questions, but nobody stopped to ask. Trent began a pat-down. There was no clear reason for it, no safety concern, and nothing about Jordan's behavior justified it. Adams shifted his stance, clearly aware this wasn't standard procedure. "You didn't tell me what you do for work," Trent said while checking Jordan's pockets. "I did," Jordan replied. "You dismissed it." "Oh, right," Trent muttered. "You said downtown." Jordan didn't respond. There was no point. Adams looked briefly at Jordan, then back at Trent, as if trying to figure out how the situation had escalated so quickly. Then Trent stepped away and headed toward the driver's door. Jordan immediately understood where this was going. "Officer," Jordan said calmly, "is there a reason you're walking toward my vehicle?" Trent didn't answer. He put his hand on the door handle. "I do not consent to a search," Jordan said clearly. Trent pulled the door open anyway. This was the moment the narrative would later highlight in the investigative report. A clear, recorded violation of procedure and a direct refusal ignored. Adams took a small step forward. "Mason, maybe we should slow down. I'm checking for inconsistencies," Trent snapped, leaning into the driver's seat. Jordan stood still, hands open and visible. He knew exactly what was happening and exactly how wrong it was. Trent wasn't looking for evidence. He was looking for a reason to justify the stop he had already mishandled. From outside the vehicle, Jordan heard the sound of compartments being opened. The console, the armrest, the glove box. Papers shifted. Items moved. Trent was searching everything he could reach. Then Trent paused. "What's this?" he said. Jordan didn't move or speak. Trent stepped out of the SUV holding a small black badge case. It looked ordinary, the kind of thing anyone might overlook unless they knew what it contained. "You can open it," Jordan said. Trent flipped it open. His expression changed immediately. Inside was Jordan's official FBI badge and ID. Special Agent Jordan Cole, Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI Charlotte Field Office. Adams stared surprised. "You're FBI?" Jordan nodded once. "Yes." Trent didn't speak at first. He just held the badge case in his hand, realizing what he had done. His confidence disappeared. His face tightened with panic, and he closed the badge case slowly. "Look," he said finally, "this is just a misunderstanding." Jordan kept his eyes on him. "You didn't ask. You assumed." Trent tried to smile, but it was clear he was shaken. "If you had told me earlier—" "I told you I worked downtown," Jordan said. "You dismissed it." Adams looked down briefly, uncomfortable with what he was witnessing. Trent ran a hand across his forehead. "Okay, let's calm down. No harm done." Jordan didn't raise his voice. "You opened my vehicle without consent." Trent stayed silent. "You searched it without cause," Jordan continued. Another pause. "And you detained me without providing a reason for the stop." Trent looked around the street, clearly aware of how exposed the situation was. Anyone driving by could see that something was wrong. "Hey," his voice dropped. "Listen, we can fix this. I'll file this as a routine stop. Simple. No mention of the search, no extra paperwork. We don't need to make this into something big." Jordan stared at him, firm and direct. "You're asking me to help you hide what you just did?" "No," Trent said quickly. "I'm asking you to avoid unnecessary trouble, for both of us." Jordan didn't answer immediately. He couldn't believe Trent was still trying to control the situation after everything that had happened. Adams stepped forward. "Sergeant should know about this," he said quietly. Trent turned sharply. No, we're not calling anyone. Jordan wasn't looking at either of them anymore. He had heard something approaching from behind, an engine sound he recognized. A vehicle slowed to a stop, a white government SUV parked behind the patrol cars. Two people stepped out. Supervisory Agent Elena Marston from the FBI. Internal Affairs Sergeant Victor Sloan from Eastland Regional. Trent's face went pale the moment he saw them. Jordan didn't smile, he didn't gloat. He just said, "I told you. I wasn't the only one who knew about this stop." The real consequences were about to begin. The moment the white government SUV stopped behind the patrol cars, the entire atmosphere on South Tryon Boulevard changed. Jordan Cole didn't move, but he could already feel the shift. Corporal Mason Trent stepped back from the SUV door like he'd touched something hot. Officer Riley Adams straightened his posture, unsure whether to speak or stay silent. Two figures walked toward them with purpose. Supervisory Agent Elena Marston, Jordan's superior at the FBI Charlotte Field Office. Internal Affairs Sergeant Victor Sloan, known for handling officer misconduct cases across Mecklenburg County. Neither of them looked confused about why they were there. "Agent Cole," Marston called out. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," Jordan answered, "but there are details you'll want to hear directly." Trent's face drained of color. "Wait, he called you? Already?" Jordan kept his eyes on Marston. "My dash cam automatically alerts the Bureau when my vehicle is pulled over." Trent didn't respond. He just stared at the ground. Sloan turned to the two officers. "Corporal Trent, Officer Adams, step over here." They walked toward the sidewalk. Adams looked nervous but cooperative. Trent looked like he was walking toward a verdict he already knew wasn't going to go in his favor. Sloan didn't waste time. "Corporal, we're going to review your body cam footage on site." On site?" Trent muttered. "Yes," Sloan said, "right now." He held out a hand. Trent reluctantly handed over the body cam device. Sloan connected it to a portable monitor he carried, the kind Internal Affairs used during roadside investigations. As the footage loaded, there was no small talk. Marston stood beside Jordan, arms crossed, focused. Adams kept shifting his weight, clearly unsure how this would unfold. The video started. Sloan watched silently. The initial stop without a stated reason, Trent's questions that had nothing to do with safety, the pat-down without cause, Jordan's clear refusal to consent to a search. Trent opening the door anyway. Sloan paused the footage and looked at him. "Corporal, do you want to say anything before I continue?" Trent swallowed. "Sergeant, listen. I was just doing my job." "Your job?" Sloan repeated. "Which part? The part where you ignored a refusal? The part where you detained someone without reason? Or the part where you searched a vehicle with no probable cause?" Trent froze. Adams finally spoke, careful with his words. "Sergeant Sloan, I did try to suggest that we slow down. I told him maybe we should wait." Sloan nodded once. "Your cooperation will be noted." Trent shot Adams a frustrated look, but Adams didn't back down. He wasn't going to fall with his partner. Sloan resumed the footage. The moment Trent opened the black badge case filled the screen. Jordan's FBI credentials were shown clearly. Trent's reaction, shock, panic, disbelief, was undeniable on the playback. Sloan paused again. "Corporal Trent," he said, "this is a clear violation of department policy and state law. The footage shows everything." Trent stepped forward desperately. "Sergeant, please. I didn't know he was FBI." "That is not the point," Sloan said firmly. "You're expected to treat every driver professionally, badge or not." Trent looked around, lost for a response. Marston stepped closer to Jordan. "You handled this well," she said quietly. Jordan nodded. "It wasn't the first time I've seen this behavior, but it's the first time I've had proof this clear." Sloan continued the video until the end. When it stopped, he folded his arms. "Corporal Trent," he said, "effective immediately. You are suspended pending a full review." Trent's mouth dropped open. "Suspension, Sergeant, please." "Step back," Sloan ordered. Trent complied. He didn't have a choice. Adams stood still, looking straight ahead. He wasn't proud of the situation, but he wasn't defending it either. Sloan turned to Jordan. "Agent Cole, we can take your statement here if you're ready, or schedule it at the precinct." "Here is fine," Jordan said. Marston nodded in agreement. Jordan spoke clearly and straightforwardly. He listed the lack of explanation for the stop, the pat-down without justification, the repeated dismissive comments, his refusal for a search, the illegal search itself, Trent's attempt to get him to let it go afterward. Sloane wrote every detail down. Trent stood nearby, staring at his boots. When Jordan finished, Sloane closed the notepad. This will move forward immediately. Trent stepped forward again. His voice shook. Agent Cole, please, I made a mistake. I don't want to lose my career over this. Jordan met his eyes. You didn't make one mistake. You made several, and you were confident while you made them. Trent didn't respond. Marston rested a hand on Jordan's shoulder. We'll follow behind you to make sure everything is handled safely. Jordan nodded. Thank you. He walked toward his SUV. Trent watched him with a look that was no longer angry or defensive, just defeated. Please, Trent said one last time, voice cracking. Don't let them take everything from me. Jordan didn't turn around. He only said, I didn't take anything from you. He opened his door. You did this to yourself. Jordan got inside and drove away. Marston followed behind him, while Sloane directed both officers into separate vehicles for transport back to the Eastland Regional Police Headquarters. The on-site review was over. The official investigation was just beginning. The drive from South Tryon Boulevard to Dilworth was only a few minutes, but Jordan Cole barely noticed the distance. Supervisory Agent Elena Marston followed close behind him, keeping her emergency lights off, but staying near enough to make it clear she wasn't letting him finish the day alone. Jordan's hands stayed steady on the wheel, but his mind replayed the stop step by step. Not emotionally, analytically. He had seen bias before. He had seen misconduct before, but seeing it unfold so plainly, caught on 2 body cams and his own dash cam, made the situation heavier. This incident wouldn't be ignored. It couldn't be. Behind them, Internal Affairs Sergeant Victor Sloane escorted both officers, Corporal Mason Trent and Officer Riley Adams, in separate vehicles back to the Eastland Regional Police Headquarters. The review had already started before any of them left the scene. Inside the precinct, the atmosphere was tense. Sloane had Trent seated in an interview room. Adams waited in a separate office down the hall. Nobody raised their voice. Nobody argued. The department simply moved into its protocol. Contain, separate, document, investigate. Marston and Jordan arrived shortly afterward and were escorted into a conference room for the formal written statement. Sloane entered carrying a stack of printed screenshots from the body cam footage. Agent Cole, he said, will document everything. Take your time. Jordan nodded. He wasn't angry, but he was firm. He listed each part of the traffic stop clearly, exactly as it happened. 1, the stop had no stated reason. 2, the questioning was unrelated to any violation. 3, the pat-down had no justification. 4, he clearly refused consent for a search. 5, Trent opened the vehicle anyway. 6, Trent attempted to convince him to avoid reporting the violation. Sloane took notes on every detail. Marston reviewed them silently but with obvious support. Across the building, Corporal Trent sat with his head down, hands clasped tightly. Footage had already been pulled, copied and flagged for administrative review. He knew it. Everyone in that room knew it. When Sloane stepped into the interview room, Trent tried one more time. Sergeant, he said, I've put 10 years into this job. I messed up, but I didn't mean for it to go that far. Sloane didn't match Trent's desperation. He stayed calm and procedural. The footage is clear, Corporal. Intent doesn't erase the actions we saw. Trent swallowed hard. I wasn't trying to target him. Sloane replied plainly, your behavior suggests otherwise. There was no yelling, no dramatic confrontation, just facts and the consequences that came with them. Officer Adams gave his statement next. He explained that he had concerns during the stop, that he tried to suggest caution, and that he didn't participate in the search. Sloane noted his cooperation and willingness to speak honestly. Within 24 hours, the initial internal report was complete. Within 1 week, the disciplinary board reviewed the footage and the statements. The decision was unanimous. Corporal Mason Trent was terminated from the department. No suspension, no reassignment, no warnings. The body cam footage, the illegal search, the refusal to follow procedure, it was too much to overlook. Adams received mandatory retraining but kept his position. Sloane specifically noted that he attempted to de-escalate the situation, which factored into the final decision. Meanwhile, Jordan filed a formal civil claim for wrongful detention and unlawful search. The city's legal team didn't even push back strongly. The footage spoke louder than any argument they could make. A settlement followed a few months later. The amount was significant, large enough to send a message about accountability, bias, and the responsibility officers have during routine stops. Jordan didn't celebrate it. That wasn't the point. He never wanted revenge. He wanted change, and this was one case where the outcome actually meant something. Back at the FBI Charlotte field office, the situation became a training example: how to stay calm, how to follow protocol, how to recognize a bad stop before it spirals. Jordan didn't ask for that spotlight, but his experience provided clarity for agents who needed it. As for Trent, the termination was final. Internal Affairs placed the case in their public misconduct archive, and the department issued a short statement confirming the policy violations. The footage became part of the official record. The story spread quietly through law enforcement circles across Mecklenburg County. Officers talked about it, not in whispers, but openly. The message was simple: bias has consequences. Procedure matters, and every stop must follow the law, no exceptions. Jordan moved forward. He returned to his work, continued his investigations, and carried himself the same way he had before the stop: calm, focused, professional. But the experience stayed with him, not as a trauma, as a reminder. A reminder that accountability is possible when proof is undeniable and when the right people show up at the right time. The incident didn't erase the problem, but it prevented one officer from repeating the same behavior with someone else. And for Jordan, that mattered. If stories like this matter to you, take a moment to share your thoughts. And don't forget, subscribe to Voices Unchained for more real stories that deserve to be heard.